Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Make Time for Your Passion webinar. I really do love running these sessions because I can give you a lot of knowledge and ideas in a short amount of time and in the comfort of your own home. So I appreciate you making time for me and making time for this session, and I do hope that you can get a lot out of this session and help you find the time that you need for the things that you love. All right, so about this training. So this is all about how you can have your ideas, passions, strengths, and talents fit together into a life that works for you. So looking at the things that you want, how can you bring them into your life and actually embed them comfortably in your life that you are living on your terms? It's also about how do you make time for you and your passions. You know, that whole notion of being time poor is such a serious issue amongst a lot of us, and so I hope to give you some ideas around how you can make time for yourself. And then I've got an action step framework to help you get started and get you thinking about some of the things that you could perhaps bring into your life to help you create that time that you need. So just a little bit about me for those who don't know me. So I am a wellness and mindset coach. I'm a mum to a 4-year-old daughter, a marathon runner, super keen runner, a small business owner, and a woman living passionately. And it's really that last point there that gets me excited, that gets me pumped up when I wake up each morning, because I am really wanting to create a movement of women living passionately and, you know, embracing things that they love so that they can feel great, be healthy, and live well. And then, of course, that ripple effect flows on to family and those closest to us. So why am I so passionate about passions? You know, you've probably seen it. I'm constantly spruiking the word passion. And that's because I believe having a passion is the gateway to being your best self. I really do think that it's a way to fuel your health and well-being. And, you know, as someone who has been a mum the last few years and have, you know, seen family and friends become mums and other women part of groups, you know, there's this feeling that, you know, women are missing something. And I hear it a lot with women that I'm working with. And I also, this is reflected in a survey that I did, that there's something missing. They want something for themselves and they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to start. And I hope that this webinar is the stepping stone to giving you all some advice and points around that. I really think that a passion helps you understand what is most important to you. And this is probably one of the big lessons that I've had from training for marathons, because, you know, we go through life working, being with a family, you know, doing whatever else we do. And then you throw in the mix this massive challenge of training for a marathon. And what it does is it gives you clarity around what is important. And so it makes you realize the things that you can sacrifice and see where you can actually make time for something that you really enjoy. It helps you develop your strengths, your talents, and your learnings. What I love about passions, and I think too when you first start a passion, is that you start off with this beginner's mindset. So if you think about it, you know, we have always been a beginner at some point, but as we get older, we get so used to doing the same thing over and over again, and we lose that beginner's mindset. So what I love about passions is that you are constantly evolving, you're constantly learning, and you're constantly growing. And so you always have this beginner's mindset where you're constantly challenging yourself, thinking, you know, maybe I could just push myself that little bit more, or maybe I'll try that, or maybe I'll do this. I'll give you an example. One of the ladies from the Find Your Passion series that I did late last year, you know, she went into kickboxing, and she just thought she'd just started as something to do. Well, now she's working towards getting her black belt before she's 50, which, you know, it's only been 2 years, but you can see how when you have a passion, it constantly challenges you to grow and learn. And if you can't hear it in my voice, I really do think that a passion makes you feel alive, joyful, and fulfilled. So really, what is there not to love about having a personal passion? So I'll throw over to you, and this is what I think is about you. And as I said, I hear this a lot from clients that I work with, but also just conversations that I have with friends and families, that you would love to have your own passion, your own interest, or your hobby for yourself, but your calendar is full, your days are packed, and your mind couldn't possibly add another thing to it. And so we think, or we dare to dream about what is possible, but then we think, where on earth would I fit that in? I should add that if you want to add a comment or ask a question throughout the webinar, feel free. I'll give you time at the end to also ask some questions. But if there's anything that resonates with you as I'm working through each of the slides, feel free to make a comment in the chat box. So today you're going to learn how to make time for your passion. You're going to learn how to highlight your priorities. Most of all, boost your energy for your passions and kickstart your mindset into action. And, the bottom two ones are really important ones. It's about energy and our mindset, and how do we keep pushing through. So what is a passion? So the definition of a passion is a hobby or interest which has become your lifestyle, your existence, and it's become part of who you are. Now, a passion can form part of your work. So there might be a particular job role that you do that you're really passionate about, and so that fuels your excitement and your fulfillment. Or you may be wanting to create a business, or you have started a business and you've got some real passion behind that. Or it might be that you're trying to create a movement, similar to what I'm trying to do here with Find Your Passion Day and helping women live passionately. Or you might be working closely, with a local charity or a community group to create some sort of impact on the community. And I guess the typical other passion is that it's something that you do for yourself, like a hobby, like a sport, creativity, adventure. Passions can come in all sorts of forms. And it doesn't typically have to be something like, starting tennis or running or swimming or that sort of thing. It can actually be found in your work or in your career. And I think, we spend a lot of our time at work in our lifetime. And so, if you can find some passion and purpose in your work, I think that's a really great starting point, particularly if you are looking for some passion. So how has running transformed me as a woman? And for those who know, running is my passion. And so without a doubt, it has given me a better routine in life and family. I've been able to better manage my time too. As I mentioned before, when you throw in train for a marathon into the mix of, everything else that we do, you then start to become quite structured in your routine. And it was funny, I just mentioned to my husband on the weekend actually, because he's training for Ironman. So both of us are pretty much tag teaming early mornings on the weekend. But then because we've done that, we then make sure that we spend real quality time together with my daughter. And so we go out and do things, or we just chill out at home. But it's not that we are there in physically there and not there in spirit. We actually make an effort to have real quality family time. And I think that's been the biggest thing that has really transformed for me in training for marathons. Definitely feel more accomplished and focused, and not just through my personal endeavors, but also through my work and through my business as well. Much happier and fulfilled. And, without a doubt, running has allowed me to follow my dream of having my own business. It is what has led me here today. And I will be so thankful that I, started running 12 years ago at the age of 25. So what is this thing with time? Why do we place so much emphasis on time, and why do we all talk about so much about being time poor? Don't know if you know this, but time is the most valuable commodity. And so we have time, but we waste time. And I think when we waste time, or if you think about it as wasting time, we're not using it wisely. And so then we reflect on the time that's been and think to ourselves, Where did that time go? Where have I spent time? What have I spent time doing? And particularly in today's world where, you know, we've got so many gadgets and devices and connected to so many more people, we are spending lots and lots of time on these gadgets and these devices. And so we've removed time with those closest to us in the physical sense. I don't think it's that we have too little time to do all the things we need to do. I think it's more that we feel we need to do too many things in that amount of time. So if you reflect on your day, you probably have a list of things that you need to do. And so we try and cram in as much as we possibly can because we feel like we're making good use of our time. But if you reflect on that time, you're probably actually doing a lot of multitasking, which when you look at multitasking, you're probably not getting very good results from multitasking. You're also probably doing things, you know, half-heartedly. You're distracted as well. And so your productivity, your presence, your focus is not there because you're desperately trying to get as much stuff done in the same amount of time. What I want you to have a think about is that we all have the same time in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. So if you look at a week, we've all got 7 days. Now that 7 days is made up of 168 hours a week. Now, if you take away sleep, and typically, you know, I guess the average amount of sleep we should have is 8 hours. So if you take away 8 hours sleep for 7 nights, you've then got 112 hours across 7 days. How are you spending your time in those 112 hours? Now, even if you took work out of there, so say 40-hour week, you're left with 72 hours. Now, if you break that 72 hours up across 7 days, on average, you've got 10 hours a day. How are you spending those 10 hours? And of course, I don't evenly match out to 10 hours across 7 days because weekends we don't work. But just on average, if you think about it, 10 hours a day you've got. Do you know how you're spending your time in those 10 hours? You know, it's quite a sort of daunting exercise when you look at those hours. And I know that when I went through this process, I thought to myself, geez, there's a lot of time there. And I'm not using my time wisely. So I think the important point here is that time waits for no one. So every second, every millisecond, every minute, time is just ticking by. But we can change our thinking around time, and it really comes down to our mindset and the way that we see ourselves and the way that we use our time. The big thing here that really takes up our thinking around time is this word busy. A lot of us are stuck in this busy trap. So we constantly think that we are so busy. If you think about, you know, when you see friends or family and they ask you, how are you going? The first thing we always say is, I'm busy. And, you know, now that I've said that, you'll probably be really conscious of it when you see people and see friends, and you'll start to think, geez, I do say that, because I did it too. And so now I try and change my thinking around that, and I don't say I'm busy, because when you say busy, it's like we are giving ourselves a trophy that, you know, we're not worth something unless we say that we're busy. So now I say, I'm going great. I'm going really good. It's a conscious change. It does take time, I warn you. But we need to challenge this idea of being busy. And I ask you, what are you busy doing? Are you good busy or are you bad busy? Are you busy in the sense that you're doing things which are making you feel great, which are contributing to how you want to live, what you want to experience? Is it contributing to your passion? Or is it bad busy, where you're constantly just running around like a headless chook, doing everything, trying to fit in as much as you possibly can, and really not achieving anything? So you need to decide, how do you want to spend your time? You know, the time, or your time, is yours, and it is possible that you can decide how you want to spend your time. So the first thing we need to do is we've got to remove this busy tag. We've got to try and change our perception around busy. So how are you spending your time? Do you really know how you are spending your time today? If you reflect back on the day that you've just had, most likely you've probably been at work. How have you spent your time? Have you spent it wisely? Have you spent it doing things that make you feel good? Achieving goals? Are you feeling rushed? Are you feeling stressed? Are you doing things that are overwhelming you? Do you feel like you have so much left to do and you just don't have the energy to do it? It's a big question. It's something that, you know, again, we don't really reflect on how we spend our time. But today I'm giving you those tools and tips to be able to do that. And so throughout the webinar, I've got a few action steps. And what I want you to do is a 24-hour time audit. So you can start as soon as this webinar is finished, or you can start tomorrow morning, or, you know, do it at a time when you're in that headspace to do it. But I want you to focus on what you are doing pretty much every minute of the day. So look at, you know, if you're starting tomorrow, maybe look at when you wake up, and then how long does it take you to do your morning routine? Have a shower, have breakfast, get ready for work, drive to work. You want to note down every activity that you do and then how long each activity takes you. You also want to, you know, note down even the mundane things. So, for example, you know, having lunch or checking your phone. You know, I think that's probably a big one to note down. Or even if you're just having a moment of just doing nothing, you know, write it down and audit it for the next 24 hours, what your time and where you're spending your time. It's a really powerful exercise and something that will give you thinking around where you may possibly be able to find some time to fit in your passions and the things that you want to be doing and enjoy. Another big one is this to-do list. And today, I hope, is your time to slay the to-do list. We create to-do lists like they are as fashionable as bikinis right now. So I've been guilty of it in the past too. I wake up in the morning or when I've been at work or at night time, and I just write slabs of things to do. Now, I'm not connected to any of those things. I'm just writing them down, and it's basically a brain dump. And then I work through my list and I'm trying to tick off as many as that I possibly can, but I'm not doing them with intention. I'm doing them mainly because I just want to tick them off the list, because how great does it feel when you can tick something off your to-do list? But what we're trying to do is we're trying to be a master of everything, but really we're a master of nothing because we are just working through this brain dump. So the more we put on our to-do list, the more we start to think that we must be, you know, more productive. It's that whole thing, that whole, you know, the more we do, the more productive we must be. But it's actually a trap. So how do we slay the to-do list? And if you think about your to-do list, and maybe if you made a to-do list today, how many things did you actually get to work through? And I mean really work through properly, that you felt like you achieved something. If you think about it, you're probably only ever going to get 1 or 2 things done on your to-do list. And I mean do them well, because when we try and do so many things, as I said before, we then start to do multitasking, or we then start to do things, we'll start doing it and then we'll stop, we'll go on to something else, and then we'll come back and then we'll get distracted. So it's just this constant vicious cycle of chasing our tail, of trying to do things but really not getting anywhere. So if you think about it, did you only get 1 or 2 things done on your to-do list today? So what we need to do to create a better to-do list is we need to prioritize our tasks. Now, I'm all for a brain dump, because I think the more that you can get out of your head, the better that you can focus and get some clarity. Sleep. How bad is it when you go to sleep and you've got so many things that pop into your head? But we need to prioritize them. We need to categorize them into how important they are, whether they're urgent, whether we can actually just delete them altogether or give them to someone else to do. The big thing here is we need to make our time count. And a really important thing to think about is that when you say yes to doing something, you need to understand that you're saying no to something else. So I know that, we are just naturally wanting to help everybody. And I think as women and as mothers, we are natural nurturers. And so we try and take on as much as we possibly can. And we've got this whole mindset that we can do it all, or that we should do it all. But think about it. If you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And that thing that you're saying no to actually might be quite important to you, but you're saying no. And it might just not be no altogether. It just might mean that you're saying no, not now. We need to understand our priorities to make the best decisions around your time. A really important one. If we're just working on everything, well, we're just not spending time wisely. So how do we start to prioritize our time or our tasks? The thing that I work through a lot with my clients, and the best process that I have found, is actually prioritizing only 3 things for the day and actually putting them into a list that I like to call a success list. So these are the things I'm going to do which are going to help me achieve the things that I want. So whether that's how I want to feel, if I'm working towards a bigger goal, what I want to experience, how I want to show up. So I call it a success list. I've also had someone else call it a love list. And so if you think about it, we're changing our perception, our mindset around this list. So if you think about to-do lists, it's that constant to-do, the doing thing, because everything seems to become a task or become a chore. But if we can change our mindset around what our list actually is, if it's a success list or a love list, we're doing it because we want to be doing it, and because we enjoy doing it, or because it's a step that's going to get us closer to a bigger goal or a bigger vision that we've got. So the way that we can start prioritizing is start looking at everything that you do, and this will feed on from your time audit actually. So if you can make a list of all the things that you do in a day and then break them up into the things that you enjoy doing and the things that you don't enjoy doing. Then have a look at them and actually say to yourself, can I do it? Do I need to be doing it? Could I give it to someone else? Could I delete it completely? Or when can I do it? Is it urgent? Is it important? Do I need to get it done straight away? But what we want to think about is, what is our number 1 or our top 3 priorities for that day? And let's work through those. Now, that's not to say you might get through those 3 priorities quite quickly, but which is fine, but you can then work through some other steps too. Or you might actually say, you know what, working through those 3 priorities is actually enough for me. I feel like I've accomplished something, and now I have time to go and do something that I enjoy, like my passion or my interest, or nurturing my creativity or my adventure side. The key here to prioritizing your tasks is being really honest with yourself. So again, I know that it's difficult for us to want to, delegate or give things away or not do something because we feel like we should. We are plagued so much by this should mentality. But you need to be honest with yourself and actually tell yourself, do I really need to do this? Do I want to do this? Is it going to serve the purpose that I am looking for? Is it going to make me feel great? And I think that's the big thing. If you truly want it and you truly want to find time for something that you enjoy, you'll want to do this exercise, and you'll want to, have clear priorities, which is going to give you focus. You're going to feel productive. You're going to feel accomplished, and you're going to feel free from pressure of trying to do absolutely everything. If you go through this exercise and you prioritize, I'd love to know, how you found it. Has it changed your thinking? If you start calling it a success list or a love list, does it change your thinking, from that typical to-do list, which is all about doing and about tasks? Now that we've had a looked at some ways that you can create some time for yourself, I want you to have a think about, what could your life look like if you embraced what you want? So as I said before about you, I'm assuming that you are here because you want to pursue a passion, an interest, whether that's in work or creating a business or starting, a pastime, a hobby, a sport, a creativity, exercise or adventure. What could your life look like if you embraced what you want? And the way that we start to answer this question is, what do you value? What excites you? What energizes you? What are your strengths and what are your talents? And so together with this time work, this time management work, and looking at what we value, we can then start to marry the two up. And we start to see that, okay, if I value, say for example, health, if health is something that I really value and it's one of my top core values, then I am going to make time to batch cook healthy meals, say on a Sunday, or make healthy snacks for the week. Because I know that I've got certain things I need to do. I've got my top 3 priorities, and that's what I'm going to work through. So I've got time so I can do this activity. And actually, when you start to go through this a bit more, the batch cooking on a Sunday will actually probably become your top priority because you value it so much, because it ties in with your health value. Or another one, think about fitness. So you want to get fitter. So maybe it's joining a gym, but then you start to think, where do I find time to fit a gym in with everything? But then when you can start looking at your time, looking at your priorities, and you start to see, actually, you know what? I have ticked off my success list. I know how long these things are going to take me. I've now got time to fit in a gym session. And, it's all about starting small too. So trying to get to a 1-hour gym session in the early days may not be possible at all, but maybe trying to do a 15-minute home session is where you start. It's all about building up consistency, and it's all about sticking at it so you can create a routine and a behavior around it. And so gradually what you do is you're building up from 15 minutes to maybe 30 minutes to an hour. Because the more you do it and the more you value it and the more that you are aligned with what you value and what energizes you, you start to find motivation and confidence that you can do it. And so the things that you thought were important perhaps are not that important. So you start to sacrifice them. And it might be that you sacrifice them completely, or you come back to them at a later time. So what I want you to do for another action step is, through your day tomorrow, I want you to start paying attention to what makes you come alive. What has the most meaning for you and what gives you joy? Now, you might break this down to workplace, so the things that, make you come alive during work, but also at home as well. Where are you finding meaning or joy or excitement or energy from the things that you do? And this, again, ties into that priority exercise where you're identifying all the tasks that you do and you're breaking them up into what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And so where can you hone in your attention, your intention, and your skills to the things that you enjoy? Because again, that's what makes you come alive, and that's where you want to be spending your time. That's where you want your focus to be, on the things that you enjoy most. So now that you know what you want in your life, so you've identified your values, you are a lot more aware with how you are spending your time. You've done a time audit. You've started to think maybe you are wasting a bit of time somewhere. You started prioritizing your time. So you are giving yourself 3 priorities per day. And that's what you're focusing on as your number one task that you'll do, rather than bombarding yourself with 100 gazillion things on your to-do list. You've got a success list now, and when you finish that success list, you feel great. But what I want to do now is actually go a bit deeper, and making time for your passion, or finding time, or creating time, actually relates to your energy levels and giving yourself energy for the things that you do. Because once we find time, we then have to start to take that first action step to work towards doing our passion, or embedding it in our life. And, taking that first action step is absolutely the hardest one. And, there will be peaks and troughs that you do well and then you drop off and then you do well again. But it's all about how do we boost our energy levels so that we stay focused and we stay motivated and energized to keep following through with this. Time's just one part of it. I think time and energy are very closely linked, and also with that ties into self-management, which is essentially what time management and energy management is. So how do we manage your time? And I would say that if you are thinking about or telling yourself that you don't have time for things, or you're feeling time poor or overwhelmed by all the things that you need to do, and you feel like you're not getting anything done with purpose, it's likely that you are directing your energy levels to the wrong areas. And the reason, and I guess in directing it to the wrong areas, which are not helping you make time for your passions. So we are plagued by this should mentality. So I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And we've got conflicting views on what we should be doing or could be doing. And when you think about that, any wonder that we feel guilty that we're not doing something because we think we should be doing something else. And then if we're doing that something else, then we're feeling guilty because we should be doing that other thing. So we're constantly torn. And this is where that values exercise comes into it. And if anyone's interested, I can send you the core values exercise. Just send me an email and I'll give you my contact details later. But it's about knowing what's important to you, so you know for yourself what you should be doing, which is important to you. The other thing that is affecting us with our energy levels is the busy trap. We're constantly in that mindset that we are always busy. We're always running from this thing to that thing, no time for anything else. And we're wearing busy with a badge of honor. When I first heard that, I thought, I don't know if I like that, but it's actually true when you think about it. It's like the busier we are, the more productive we are, the more success we must look like we're having. But really, there's a reason that we call it the busy trap. So I hope that you can see this. And again, I can send this to you in a bigger format. But I have created this framework based on quite a lot of different positive psychology information and frameworks that are out there. And this is what I think is the way that we can energize yourself. So I emphasize self because self sits in the middle. So that is you. So how do we energize yourself? I've broken down self into 4 pillars. So mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and physical health. I think, what I've learned in speaking to and working with a lot of clients is that when we think about health, we automatically think about fitness, the physical health of us. And yes, that is absolutely important, but there are 3 other pillars there that are just as important: our mental health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. And these are all interconnected, and I don't think we give enough credit to these sorts of things. And what you find is that when you focus on one area, you start to see benefits in the other areas, and each one creates a ripple effect. So why this framework? Why have I created this framework? And the reason I've created it is because it is a diagram as such that you can look at some key points that you might actually start to realize where you are falling short in energizing yourself. So for example, if we look at the mental health. So when I'm talking mental health, this is all about our mindset and our thinking. And so I think that a big part of our mental health is having this component of accomplishment. So where are you feeling accomplished? There's a lot of research and a lot of frameworks out there that talk about this being accomplished or achieving something. And I know through my marathon running, but also through having my own business as well, that this sense of accomplishment is what drives me. I love being able to work on goals and work towards them and feel accomplished. And even if I get to the point that I don't reach my big goal, I've developed and I've grown throughout that process, and I'm so much further along than I ever was. And so with accomplishment, you can then start to look at your values, and that's the first arrow, which is up to your right. And again, this is all about knowing what is important to you, what drives you, nurturing your grit. So finding grit. So where can you be brave and courageous enough to go and pursue those goals that you want to achieve? As I said, that might be as simple as starting a sport that you've been wanting to do, or it might be starting a business, or it actually might be changing jobs and finding a job that fulfills you and gives you that level of accomplishment. On the other side there, I've got relationships, because I think, again, we don't really think so much about how important having close relationships around us is. It's about, having a network around us, people who support us and who we can support as well. And that's why I've got that arrow pointing down to the bottom right, which is all about belonging. So when you have relationships, or good relationships, you feel like you belong to something. And again, when I went out on my own as full-time business owner early last year, I felt like I belonged to a network of other women in business, but in saying that, I was alone because I was working for myself at home, and I'd left, I guess, the day job nest of working with other people in an environment, so I wasn't having that daily contact. And it wasn't till I started going out and networking with people, meeting other women in business, actually face to face, sitting down, have a coffee with them, building relationships, that I felt like I belonged to something. And that is such a massive reward for your mental health. I'm not going to go through all of these individually, but I just wanted to give you some examples that these are core components which affect our energy levels and the way we see ourselves. If I look at spiritual health, and again, when I sort of say spiritual, a lot of people's eyes glaze over because they think I'm about to go all woo-woo on them, and perhaps I am maybe a little bit. But spiritual health is about connecting to your purpose, your intuition. It's also, a lot of mindset work as well. But it's tapping into your feelings and actually realizing that the thoughts that you have affect the way that you feel, and the way that you feel affects the actions that you're going to take. And I've purposely put passion and meaning aligned with spiritual health, because again, I feel like when you have that passion, that you are tapping into something bigger than yourself, which is giving you that meaning, that sense of accomplishment, that belonging. And what it's also conjuring up is positive emotions and feelings. And you all of a sudden are finding yourself being comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you're going ahead pursuing a passion which you haven't done before, or maybe you haven't done it for years and years. And so it's giving you some focus, and it's making you feel great. And so, what you can do with spiritual health, and when you're looking for passion or meaning, is you can broaden the practices that you do, such as, practicing kindness or practicing gratitude and being grateful for the things that you have in your life and grateful for the passion that you have. Plus, within that, you can also, start to tap into mindfulness and meditation, and actually, develop your brain and thinking around wanting to do things positively and feel great and achieve meaning. And where meaning comes into it to passion is that you feel like you are actually doing something with meaning and with purpose. So even if I didn't have my business, still my running would give me a sense of meaning, because it is, I guess, nurturing me, nourishing me, making me feel great. But I also feel like I'm giving a sense of meaning to my family and to my daughter, and being that role model for her, to show her that, anything is possible. Actually, everything is possible. We just have to define what everything is. But I still feel like I've got a sense of meaning, whether I was doing it to make a bigger impact on the community or doing it just for my family. So what I want you to do, looking at this framework, is actually identify an area that perhaps you are lacking in, or you're not giving the attention that you should be giving. So perhaps you are, lacking in a sense of meaning. So how can you then go out and find some meaning? Where can you find meaning and purpose in the work that you do? Or where can you find meaning in the relationships that you have with people, or within your personal life as well? Where can you start to do things with intention so that you are focusing on the things that you want to be doing and the things that you enjoy? Or perhaps it's your physical health. So are you giving so much to your spiritual health or your emotional health, but your physical health is not there? So I'll give you an example. So last year I went out full-time as a small business owner, and I decided that I wouldn't run a marathon because I was devoting my life to nurturing this business and growing this business. Now, I was still being active. I was going to the gym and I took up yoga and I was running a little bit, but I felt like my physical health wasn't where I wanted it to be because I wasn't nurturing myself through chasing a marathon goal or a big challenge. Maybe that's why I decided to do a 60K, because I didn't do a marathon last year. But, I was giving so much to my spiritual, my mental health, that perhaps my physical health was dropping. And I could feel as well that, I went and saw a food nutrition coach because I felt like I wasn't nourishing my body as well as I could be. And so when I started to focus on that, I felt like other things were shifting too. So, my passion for running was, growing again. My passion for my business was growing again. The relationships that I was having with family and friends, and particularly close family, was changing because I was feeling fulfilled and I was feeling like I was, achieving something once I started to focus more again on my physical health. So where can you focus? Where can you find energy in any of these areas? What can you focus on to give you that bit of energy that you need to then find that passion or that interest or that talent that you want to pursue? As I said, there's a lot there in that framework, and I can send it to you in a PDF document that you can have a look at. But it's just my way of putting in simple words and showing you that everything is connected. We are a whole person. So what we do from an emotional perspective is going to affect our physical health, which is also going to affect our spiritual health. And if we are feeling great in all of those, then our mental health is going to thrive as well. So it's about, finding some sort of level of balance across these. Or if we feel like we haven't got balance, where can we then pick up the slack in a certain area? So I want you to have a think about, or ask yourself this question: are you willing to boost your energy levels so that you can do the passion that you want to do? You can go and do the work that you want to do. Feel confident that you can go and do the work that you want to do. Start a business, start a sport, get creative, start a side hustle. What can you focus on? What area can you focus on, and what can you work through? What's one thing that you can work through to help you boost your energy levels? Because when you boost your energy levels, your whole relationship with time, your organization, your productivity, everything starts to shift because you are feeling energized towards something that is important to you. So I'm just going to throw out there if anyone has any questions, and you can comment in the chat box if you've got any questions. What I'll do in the meantime is I am offering a 1-to-1 1-hour energizer session for $97, where you can get clear on what you would love to be doing with your passions, your career and your life, etc. Uncover any of these challenges. So, within that framework, is there anything in particular, if I go back to it, is there anything in particular which you see as a challenge that you need to overcome? And this is what I love doing within my coaching work, is, helping people work through some of these challenges. And then most importantly, you're going to finish off the session energized and rejuvenated, because you're going to have, understand clearly what your values are, what your vision is, what you want, what drives you, what motivates you, and then an action plan on how you can go about going to get it. It's all about taking action, and it is that first step, as I said. So I just want to thank you again for your time, for coming along to this workshop or this webinar. I could talk about passions and time management and organization and energy, forever and a day, because I love it. So, feel free to make contact with me. I thought I had my email up there, but my email is bemoreworkshops@gmail.com. Or you can jump on Facebook and Instagram and send me a private message, and we can start dialogue there. As I said, it's something that is really important to get a handle on, is to understand where you're spending your time and where you are putting your energy. Because once you know those, you can then start to direct your energy and use your time as you want to be using your time. So I don't know that we've got any questions or any comments. So I'll leave it there, and I'll just thank you again for your time and for being part of it. And, feel free to send me an email or a private message, and we can chat then. So good luck working through those activities. Feel free to make contact and let me know how you go. Let me know what amazing aha moments that you may have had in working through some of those action steps. And I hope, most importantly, that it's given you some sort of foundation to start working on finding your passion and embedding your passion into your life so that you can feel great, be well, and be healthy. So thank you so much, and I will see you around. Bye.